Big news this week, right? The transfer portal. Blake Harper from Howard University. This guy was the player of the year in the MEAC. He was the rookie of the year, the first time anyone has ever won both of those awards in the same season. This guy was a top 30 scorer in the NCAA, about 19.5 points per game. And this week, his name goes into the transfer portal. Simone, I would love to say that I am surprised. I didn't see it coming, but I think ever since about mid-December, we saw that this was likely to happen.
Right. And you talk about the scoring, but Blake, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Like, he's a guy that's, getting active everywhere on the court. So, yeah, I mean, we know once these guys blow up, get on the national radar. You talk about him top 30 in the NCAA overall in scoring. A lot of teams are looking at you.
So we know how it works now. You can pay. The bag is there. The bag is legal. I'm sure coaches at bigger programs were recruiting throughout the year, at least in their mind, if nothing else, and
right.
Back channels and however these things work. But this is a kid that shot about 40% from the three-point line, 6'8", great size, and you can still see potential. He's still got a frame to fill out. Of course, he's going to get better. He was just a freshman. Simone, how can and how should HBCUs adapt to this new era of your best player is probably going to get poached from you, or at least the overtures are going to be there?
How can they adapt?
What should they do? Is it a good thing? Like, is it just like, hey, this is how it is?
I think there's pros, right? Because obviously if somebody wants their players, that goes to show how good of a developer you are, and how good of a scouter you are, because we know with the HBCUs, they're not usually getting the guys that are the top ranked in high school. So they have to do a better job evaluating talent and finding potential and developing that potential, which we've seen that they've done with guys going on to, Power 5 conferences or the bigger conferences and succeeding from the HBC level. So I think it does show a big positive, which is what great coaches and scouts that there are in the HBCU landscape.
So I know it's going to be hard for fans, but can coaches, administrators, take that as a win and say, hey, we're getting guys that people want. Let's just go back and restock and get more talent that, might leave us. But if we can kind of replicate this throughout the years, then we can have a win?
I don't know.
I'm looking for the silver lining.
The silver lining, like I said, is it's a kudos to the coaching staff, and it's a kudos to the program for being able to find that talent and develop it. Because again, it's not the talent that's on the national radar in high school. But as a fan and a coach, it is difficult because you do have to find a new anchor piece pretty much every season, because you have a guy like Blake Harper for Howard, who's like your core, your anchor piece. We'll talk about FAMU losing the SWAC player of the year, Sterling Young. That's the core. That's your anchor piece that you build around. So now going into the next seasons, you got to find a new core piece to build around. It's not just about filling out the roster. You have to find that new star for your team. So it's tough.
So you talk about Sterling Young. So we have in the same season and really within the same kind of 7-day news cycle, the SWAC player of the year and the MEAC player of the year, both in the transfer portal. Sterling Young was a strong three-point shooter. FAMU didn't win the SWAC championship, but they were a much better team. They did make it to the SWAC tournament. Sterling Young was hurt, did not get a chance to play in the SWAC tournament. FAMU might have gone past the first round if he was available. But Simone, as we were saying, it's not just the MEAC. Like the SWAC is feeling it this offseason as well.
Yeah, it's tough. That's the only way you can really describe it. It's tough because success means more eyes, and more eyes mean portal at this point. Basically, right. It's a bittersweet moment because when you have a player that's going to get those all-conference awards, you know what that means. At the end of this season, said player is going to be scouted by other schools.